One of the interesting ways of writing a fanfare is to look beyond the normal major and minor scale. So throughout the history of music, composers have learned to use modes, which are different kinds of scales compared to major and minor, to bring more flavor to their composition.
If you learn music at school, which most people do to some extent, you'll probably learn about major scales and minor scales. But there's a whole world of pitch resources out there beyond major and minor.
My understanding of the modes, they're basically just scales. The basic ones that we learn are the church modes. So there's a rhyme, which is I don't play loud music after lunch, and that's for the different modes. So you have Ionian, Dorian, Phrygian, Lydian, don't play loud, Mixolydian, Aeolian and Locrian. And those modes have been around for a while, and basically they're derived from the major scale. So each one is a different scale that is built off at each degree of the major scale. And compositionally, you can use them to have a bit more harmonic interest.
There are lots of different kinds of modes outside of the European ones. You might use pentatonic scales. They're only 5 notes and they come from all sorts of different cultures. There's a huge amount of resources, and it's worth considering them when you're putting together your fanfare.
When you're stacking chords on top of each scale degree, that means if you go to a 4 chord or something, it could be different by using a different mode than what would normally be diatonic to like a major or minor scale. So harmonically and melodically, using these modes can create really interesting sounds.
My understanding of modes is that they are musical scales. They have a far broader sound spectrum of that you can make gritty, dark, happy, sad, romantic sounds, because they all have different functions and different meanings. And so a mode has more possibilities in music than a simple scale would.
My piece was influenced quite heavily by the Mixolydian mode, using a Mixolydian G major. And then later on, I do a bit of a funky thing where I just transpose to interesting chords. But yeah, at least the first half is definitely based on the Mixolydian mode.
Well, I didn't really construct any modes for this piece or some other pieces. Although many of the times I just simply take a melody, very classical, and then just change it by adding augmented seconds into it and taking the melody normal and just simply changing an accidental and stuff.
I have played quite a few of the Olivier Messiaen, most of them to transpositions, and then in some of my own compositions I decided I'd construct some of my own modes and base my pieces on that.
This piece was heavily influenced by the mode of Lydian.